Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm feeling like fall is coming. We've been having some cooler weather, but it's still pretty nice outside, and I decided to kind of put some seasonal decor in my vanity space. I don't know, I like to do that. I like to kind of incorporate that, and then hence the rest of my house should be coming soon. I'm not sure if I'll do it. I thought I was going to do it this past weekend, but I just wasn't feeling up to doing my whole house with fall, so I just kind of did this area a little bit, and I really like it. I think it's really cute. I'm soon going to be filming an updated vanity tour for those that are interested, as I have done quite a few updates to this area since I first did this back in January. So I'm really excited. I got an actual vanity mirror and just updated some things. So I can't wait to do that for you guys, because I think from when I first did it to what it looks like now is really in tune with what I'm looking for my space and also kind of for my background. So let me know in the comments below if you're loving kind of how it's looking for fall, and in general, if you think my little beauty space is cute, because I really do think it is. Now, over the last few months, I've really been trying to figure out kind of what, I want to divide my time wisely, and just so I'm not being pulled in a lot of directions. So I basically have condensed down where I'm at on my social media, and I used to be on all of it, and you name it, I was on it, and I've just decided that it just became too much. So basically, if you want to find me and keep in touch with me, Instagram is my go-to place. That's where I will be every day. I do morning coffee time, showing what coffee I'm drinking of the day, and if there's just anything I want to share with you that will happen during that day. I do IGTV. I try to do that once a week, which I'm really enjoying, and then I'll also sometimes do live IG as well. But I really like the IG stories, and I love IGTV. And then the other place is here on YouTube, but that's what I'm going to keep my social media to now, is just those two places. I do tend to go a little bit on Facebook, but I'm just trying to keep things very simple. So being on Instagram, and even when I was doing Snapchat, my number one question that I continually get asked every single day is, how do I get up so early? Why do I get up so early? Is it something that just comes naturally to me? And am I a morning person? And most people are just honestly don't understand why I get up so early. Now, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, then follow me on Instagram. The link will be below, but basically it's just Jaime M. Thomas is where you can find me. And I usually am up very early every single day. And I just don't know, I'm always perplexed by that question, because out of anything, that's what I get asked the most. So this may be a longer video, but basically what kind of got me thinking about maybe breaking this down in a video form was, I did get back in the beginning of August by a specific question being asked, would love to see a video about your morning routine and how you became a morning person and have the discipline to get up so early. Glad to see your videos again. So I thought that was really nice. And then when these are all kind of in my DMs on Instagram continually, how do you get up early? I can't believe it, and this and that. So I thank all of you for always inquiring about this specific aspect of my life, and many of you just can't believe it. So I kind of want to go back to kind of my childhood and the earliest recollection of this. And from my earliest memory as a child, I always have been a morning person that I can remember. It's never been forced. I've always woke up happy. Of course, I have moments where you wake up if you're not feeling good. Maybe you're tired, you didn't sleep. You know, it can't always be roses and happiness every single day. But my earliest recollection and memory is that I would just wake up happy. It wasn't forced. It just was how it was. And no one in my family that I can think of is a morning person. No one in my regular life are morning people. I can basically count in my regular life, real life as I call it, one person that I know that enjoys getting up super early, usually around 5 o'clock. Is when this person gets up. Now on social media, maybe 3 or 4 of you that that follow me get up early. As early as me, not necessarily, but around 5 or 6 o'clock, I would say. Other than that, no one else I know gets up early. Not even Derek, not any of my family, my sister, my brother, my mom wasn't a morning person, none of my friends, none of my co-workers. They only work in the morning because they have to get up. But this is just who I am. So when I thought, you know, when I get asked this question, I think about it, it's not anything that I have to really figure out, well, how and why. It just comes naturally to me. I don't really know why. All I know is this is how I've always been. Now, it has varied over the years as far as what time of the morning do I get up. Now, usually, back, 20 years ago, I would sleep in, 20 years or more, I could sleep in, I would stay up very late and I could sleep in and get up about 11 o'clock. But I was always happy and looked forward to it. And that's just how it was. And then as years had gone on, when I was married previously back in my 20s, and then I got divorced, that's when things really started to change for me. I actually became somewhat of I wouldn't call it quite an insomniac, but I began to develop sleeping issues because I just was used to having that person beside me for 11 years and then went from no one. I moved out onto my own by myself, no roommate, as soon as I got separated and divorced. So that year was a very tough transition for me. I didn't sleep well at all. So then that started to develop getting up really, really early for me. And I would set an alarm, but I didn't really need an alarm. I just tend to would get up, and I don't really have an explanation as to why. It just seems to be maybe part of my internal time clock, I guess you could say, or, alarm. I don't really know what to call it. It's just something that has always been there. Now, when I got divorced, I was the age of 27. So going on now almost 20 years, I have had more troubles sleeping and getting to sleep and staying asleep. Now, I worked on that a few years back and actually saw a sleep psychologist because I couldn't fall asleep and I didn't know what to do. So I was really running on about 4 or 5 hours of sleep if I was lucky, and just didn't know what else to do. So, I just kind of was like, I want to at least be able to fall asleep. That was my main issue, was falling asleep. And to this day, staying asleep is still a problem for me. I can now, with the help of, figuring out what I needed to do to kind of change things in my patterns at bedtime, I'm able to fall asleep very easily now, which is fantastic. That was one of my big issues. But staying asleep after about 4, sometimes 5 hours, that's where things have broken down for me. So I still haven't been able to get that back on track from when I was, pre divorce, I guess you could say. it just is what it is. And so I find that if I get about 6 hours, six and a half hours, I do very well. I'm not really tired. I wake up very refreshed. And that just seems to be the number that my body seems to be okay with. We all have a amount of sleep that we need every night to function properly. Mine's between 6 and 6.5 hours, and I function fine. I'm not usually tired, and I feel pretty good. So that is what I'm still working on. Now, as far as where I'm at today, and if you're not aware, I normally tend to get up between 3:45 to 4:15 every single morning without an alarm clock being set. Now, if you're wondering, that is crazy, I can't believe it, what the heck, which is what most of you on Instagram wonder. What transitioned from, I normally would get up at 7 a.m. a few years ago without setting an alarm. And I did always set an alarm because I was always like, well, what if I don't wake up? But I always woke up by 7 o'clock to wake up and feed Apollo and whatever, you know, normal. And that was just how it was without having to worry about, you know, setting an alarm, even though I did. Now, a few years back, I'd say about 4 or 5 years ago, Paulo got very ill. He was having some huge sinus issues. He still has that, but we were trying to figure out what was going on. He had a massive fungal infection. He was actually very ill. So with that, he had to go on meds twice a day, in the morning and then in the evening. So with that, I had to start training myself to get up at 5 a.m. because of just trying to cycle that properly. So with that, I decided to set my alarm and started to get up at 5 a.m. So in the beginning, that was a little bit difficult because I would get up at 7, but that 2 hours was a bit of a struggle, but I still was happy and would get up and wasn't, you know, upset or mad. I just got up, no worries. So I started to do that, and then as I was doing that, it became less and less that I had to set my alarm. My body just naturally would start waking up, you know, around 5 o'clock. And Apollo was raring to go to eat and have, you know, his pill, go to the bathroom and all of that. And unfortunately, the way I am is once I'm awake, I usually can't go back to sleep. So once I was up at 5, I was awake. So I just kind of decided, well, Apollo went back to bed, 5 a.m. I'm going to just have coffee and just sit and make use of that time. So before I was on Snapchat and then I was doing this or that. So I would take that time before I'd had to go to work and just kind of do social media things, you know, on Instagram and Snapchat, and was doing that for quite a while. There is a fly in here that's driving me nuts, and I can see it and I want to get rid of it. The fly is driving me nuts. It won't leave, and hopefully, yeah. So once I was doing that, and then I got into the habit of 5 o'clock and still set my alarm, but then that dissipated. So I stopped setting my alarm because I internally would get up and not have any issues. And with that, though, means I go to bed earlier because I want to make sure I get 6 to 6.5 hours of sleep. So that's what I started to do. So then as time has gone on over the last year and a half, for whatever reason, my body seemed to settle into like 3:45, 4 o'clock. And it just is something that transitioned. I don't really know why, but 4 o'clock seems to be the number that I wake up. And it's usually just before 4 o'clock, and Apollo actually is raring to go to have breakfast, and if I'm not awake, he is nudging me, and I usually am, and I try to pretend I'm not because I want a few minutes before I get out of bed to get up with him, but he's raring to go. Of course, he goes back to bed, and he's fine with that, but me, I'm awake. So that seems to be over the last year, 2 years, the time I get up, and I have no idea. It just is what it is, and I wake up feeling happy, feeling grateful, just ready to conquer the day. And I get up, I feed Apollo. He stopped being on meds twice a day a couple years ago, so he really has no meds in the morning at all. He only has it in the evening, so there's no reason for me to get up this early. But I basically train my body to get up as early as I do. However, the 4 o'clock thing just happened, and I have no explanation other than that's just, as I've gotten older, that's just how it is. So I've always been a morning person. It is something that is natural to me. Just the progression of the time I would get up has changed and gotten earlier as I've gotten older, but my bedtime has gotten earlier as well. And the problem with that is that the way I am with sleep is that no matter how late, like if I go to bed at my normal time, I'll wake up. But unfortunately, most times if I go to bed quite late, which is very rare, I still wake up. And so that is hard for me, but I tend to, on those days if I'm not working, because I don't like to go to bed late, especially when I'm having to go to work. So if that happens, I normally can try and take a little bit of a nap later on, and that seems to work okay. But my body just wakes up. I know people ask me, but I don't honestly have an explanation as to the 4 o'clock thing. It just kind of went from 5 a.m. to 4, and that seems to be the time. I really don't know why. It just is. So I normally go to bed anywhere between usually 8:45 is when I get ready for bed. I like to just take about 15 minutes. I do nightly stretches with my back, wash my face, get that all ready for bed, and brush my teeth. So by 9 o'clock, I'm sliding into bed. That is my normal bedtime, because people will ask me what time I go to bed at. So if I'm home, which is 99% of the time, at 9 o'clock, I'm sliding into bed. And actually what my ritual is, and what I love, is I turn on YouTube and watch a couple different YouTubers that relax me. I find very relaxing, and then I start getting very, very sleepy. And then by about 9:15, 9:30 is the typical time I do fall asleep. And then the cycle continues the following day. But my routine is very simple. I just go to bed and wake up, feed Apollo, and he does his thing, and then I make my morning coffee and share that with you on Instagram. I always like to share my coffee of the day. I said that earlier. And then I'll just sit down in my recliner in my living room, and because I'm now just sticking to Instagram and YouTube, my mornings now are very, very relaxed. Most times I work in the morning, and that varies. And then when I'm off, my 2 days a week, I'm getting up and going walking or going to the gym and doing errands or have appointments. So I'm just used to getting up quite early because I like to have things accomplished earlier in the day, and that way I can just enjoy my afternoon or do whatever I need to do by noon. That's kind of what I like to do. But I just really love to make my coffee, share that with you, interact. There are some of you awake at that time, and then I just sit and enjoy the quiet. That's the big thing I really love to do. I hate to be rushed to go anywhere. I like to get up. That's the big thing, and how I've always been from my earliest memory is I hated to be rushed, and I still to this day hate to be rushed, whether it was going to school, work, whatever it is. I just, hate being rushed. So, it just bothers me. It puts me in a frame of mind that I don't like. So by doing my early morning and chilling and relaxing, I'm just mentally preparing for the day ahead, and I really love it. It allows me just to kind of get my head in a really good space and just to chill, and then when I need to go to work or whatever it is I need to do, I'm in a really good space. And I'm really happy with kind of how my life has transitioned into this very, very early morning routine. And it's just a natural progression that has happened. And I haven't set an alarm now probably for about 4 years. It just happens. I just wake up, and I don't know how. I've said I don't know how else to explain it. It just is what it is. And I'm very thankful and grateful. And as I said, Derek is definitely not a morning person. He still sleeps in, 11 to 12 o'clock on his days off. He works at 7 a.m. Monday through Friday. So he sets his alarm and gets up like right just basically before he needs to get to work. Me, I'm up, and I think it drives him crazy, and most people, because they don't comprehend, and like even my coworkers are perplexed and don't understand. How do I do it? And most of you ask that too, and I don't really have an explanation. It just happens. And I am a morning person, and I can't help it. I won't apologize for it. It does drive a lot of people crazy. It drove my sister nuts throughout me growing up, and because she's just not, and my one of my closest friends, she's not a morning person, and it would drive her nuts. In college, she would pick me up, and I would get in the car, and she'd be like, "Why are you happy?" And I just said, "I don't know, I just am." So this is how I am as soon as I wake up. I have my moments where maybe I'm not, if I've had, every now and then, if you have a bad dream, then I wake up feeling a little bit weird. And it may take me a little bit to kind of transition and get rid of that kind of bad vibes. If it's been a nightmare, which is very rare, then I transition and just try to kind of get my head in a better place. But overall, what you see is what you get 24/7, except for when I'm sleeping. And I'm sorry if that doesn't really answer your question, but it just is hard for me because I really don't have an explanation other than this is how I always have been. Just the time itself when I've gotten up has gotten a little bit earlier, but that I really, really enjoy getting up at 4 o'clock. Yes, I will say it. I enjoy it. If you think I'm crazy, that's fine, because most people do and just don't understand and don't get it. I get a lot of flack for it, which really boggles my mind. I'm not sure why it doesn't bother people. But obviously it bugs some people, and I'm still perplexed why some people seem very put off by it. They are. Some people just find it really weird, and they don't know how to grasp and deal with that. Others, are supportive and think, hey, you go for it. But most people are just like, okay, well, you go, but I'm just going to lay in bed and sleep as late as I can. When it's my day off, I'm just going to sleep. But I just like to accomplish things and get things done. Hence, I just get up and naturally am happy and enjoy my me time, as I call it, every morning, and get myself in a good frame of mind and place and body, and just then I get my day started. So that's basically it, guys. It's nothing, perplexing for me. It's just all I've ever known, to wake up and be happy and grateful and in a good mood for the most part, on that this is my life, and I just is what it is. So I would like to know in the comments below if you are a morning person. If you are, what time of the day do you normally get up? And does that vary day to day or on your days off? Or is it like, are you like me, that no matter the day, whether you're off, if you have appointments, if it's a holiday, whatever, do you just get up at a specific time each morning? And do you set an alarm clock? I would really like to know. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Please leave me any other questions or comments you have below. And I really hope that this kind of brought a bit of insight into my life. If it did, that's great. If it didn't, I'm sorry, but I just really don't know how else to tell you but to say this is just how I am. And maybe it's an abnormal thing. I'm not sure. So I will see you guys in the next video. And here's to fall coming up. I am going on vacation this Sunday to Vegas. It's been over 3 years since I've gone anywhere. Derek and I are going and I cannot wait. So please follow me on Instagram because I will be sharing my time there in, I believe, IGTV bits or an IG story, whatever it's called. So I hope to see you there, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.